Is the emptiness of your bank account a constant reminder that you are completely safe from identity theft? Let's talk about it. We talked Sunday about how quality of life, or happiness, is different than standard of living. That's how nice your stuff is. Money doesn't raise your quality of life, but financial margin does. Money can't make you happy, but a lack of money can sure make you miserable. Okay, for today, I'm going to hand the discussion off to one of the greatest financial teachers of our lifetime, Dave Ramsey. Watch this.
Maybe you can explicate some of the baby steps that you use, because I know so many people who have had serious debt problems and have been attempting to get out of those, who have used the steps that you talk about. So what are some of those steps that you talk about?
You know, what we figured out was that personal finance, I kept trying to fix it with the math, because I'm a math nerd. And then I finally figured out it wasn't a math problem. It was a me problem. The guy in my mirror is the problem. If I can get that guy to behave, he can be skinny and rich, but he's got issues. And so I figured out he needs a clear path and basic financial planning / mixed in with a little common sense to make some gumbo. We came up with an idea that, hey, do this first, then do this, real clear, and don't deviate from it. And lots of people did it, and it worked. And we called it the baby steps, because you can do anything if you just take a step at a time. Baby step 1's $1,000. Quickly save a little starter emergency fund. 2 is knock off all your debt, except your home, using the debt snowball, listing them smallest to largest, attack them in that order. 3 is an emergency fund. Go back to that 1,000, raise it up to a fully funded grandma's rainy day fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. So now you're sitting with $15,000, $20,000 and no debt except your house. Now you can breathe. That's a foundation. And then you start your investing into your retirement, kids' college, and pay off your house early. Typical millionaire pays off their home in about 10.2 years. And then you're set up for baby step 7, which is just build wealth and be outrageously generous.
So I want to talk about some of those ideas, because there's a lot there. And as you say, a lot of that is psychological as opposed to monetary. So when I first heard about your program, and I've talked to a lot, as I say, a lot of people who have used your program, there were a couple things that jumped out at me, because I too am kind of a math-minded guy. The first one was when you talk about the debt snowball, you start with small to large, you list all the debts and you say, okay, you've got a $200 debt, pay that one off first, and build up to the big debts. And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, if you have a $200 debt at 2% interest and a $10,000 debt at 10% interest, why not start with the one with the high interest rate?
It's mathematical blasphemy. It really is. For a nerd like me, it's like fingernails down a chalkboard. We're doing it wrong, We're doing it wrong. But the thing is, if you go to the Y and you sweat and you drink water and you don't eat white bread and you gain weight, you will quit. And the same thing getting out of debt. You need some quick encouragement. You need to go, this might work. And then you pay off another one, you go, well, this might work. Then you pay off another one, you're like, getting the neighbor in here, this might work. Hey, baby, come over here, look at this, we paid. And you start to get this thing happening, it's called hope. And you actually believe it's gonna happen. And so, and what happens is the more people get excited, the more they believe, the deeper they'll sacrifice, and the faster they get out. And so this debt snowball thing, even though it's, it's a paradox, even though that, it works. It works. And people don't get out of debt using the other, because they get stalled out. And I always just laughingly tell our audiences, if we were doing math, we wouldn't have credit card debt in the first place. It's not a math problem.
So I want to ask also about who kind of your target audience is, because I think that there are certain situations, right? I came from a middle class background. By the time I was, a teenager, a late teenager, I would say we were sort of upper middle class, and I incurred debt for college. I incurred debt for law school. You're very anti-debt for college. I agree with you that many college debts are worthless. But for my wife, for example, she's a doctor, as people know, and she went to medical school, and she also went to pre-med for undergrad. Are there any situations in which you think that taking out college debt is worthwhile?
Well, I just don't teach people to borrow money. The shortest path between where you are and wealth is to stay in control of your largest wealth building tool, which is your income. Now that puts some serious hurdles in place when you're going to law school or you're going to go to med school. But I talk to people who go to med school and they find a way. They get scholarships, they do fellowships, the MD PhD program. There's all kinds of ways to do it, but it's tough. It's tough. But so's paying off $250,000 freaking dollars in debt. That's tough too. So you're going to pick your tough. You just got to pick which one.
I mean, that's sort of, I guess, the question, because it sounds like there are certain situations, like There are situations in which, if you have to have a government-sponsored debt, it seems to me those are the situations in which it's a bad idea to really take out debt. If you got to take out a student loan from the government in order to go major in gender studies, good shot, you're never going to be able to pay that off.
Exactly.
But there are certain professions where the income coming out is going to be good enough that there's a reason the bank is giving you a low-interest loan. If you're taking out a loan for pre-med, they're presumably giving you that loan hoping they're going to get, knowing or having actuarial tables suggesting they're going to get paid back on the other end. So, are you supposed to forego med school?
Those are federally insured loans too. And the inherent problem, and it becomes a policy problem when you get right down to the core of it, with $1.4 trillion now in student loan debt. We're basically loaning 18-year-olds who have never had a job and want to get a degree in left-handed puppetry up to $145,000. I mean, we the people are stupid. We're really stupid that we're guaranteeing these loans. I mean, because there's no guidelines on this whatsoever. And the parents many times don't care, don't bother to be involved, or don't know how to lead their kid. They're like, well, they're 18, they make their own decisions. That's probably not a good idea. Maybe we put your arm around little junior and say, we really do need to get a degree in something other than, German polka history. Let's try something else, Let's try to get something actually is marketable and that you can put some tools in your belt to earn a living so you don't live in my basement when you're 32. Let's have a plan here.
And it's funny that you come at this from a different angle from people like Peter Thiel, obviously, but you end up in exactly the same place, which is college is very often a waste of time. Maybe you ought to just be going out and learning a career, apprenticing yourself, actually making something yourself.
I don't think it's a waste of time at all. I mean, higher education, we just completed, one of our Ramsey personalities, Chris Hogan, we just completed the largest study on millionaires ever done. We studied 10,165 of them. And the vast majority of them have a 4-year degree. They didn't do that. They didn't use debt to get it, though. That's what's odd. 68% of them have a 4-year degree. And almost none of them went to prestige schools, though. Most of them went to state schools and community colleges and that kind of a thing. And but it turns out being smart, being educated is a good thing. It's just, what are you studying and what are your expectations? But it just breaks my heart when I get a young lady calling me from Atlanta last week on my show, and she's got $165,000 in student loan debt for a master's degree in sociology, and she makes $38,000 working for the state of Georgia. I mean, it's just, so where were her parents? Where we as a culture failed her to tell her that was going to work. But then you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, education isn't a good idea, but we're just stupid about education. That's the paradox.
So the crazy thing is that you may need a lower standard of living, less stuff, in order to improve your quality of life, your happiness. Our spending habits usually decrease our quality of life. Okay, stop here, answer the first 3 questions, and then push play. Okay, we're going to watch a little bit more from Dave Ramsey.
When it comes to kind of personal character, how much do you think that financial decisions are about education of people to make the right decisions? And how much is it about actually being able to put off what you want for what you need?
Yeah, that's called maturity, the ability to delay pleasure. And that is a character quality. Integrity, there's a high correlation between integrity, wholeness, not just telling the truth and honesty, but this full-on integrity. You are who you are all the time, that's integrity. And not only do you tell the truth, not only do you honor your word in situations, high data point correlation between that and the ability to build wealth. This idea that you cheat your way to the top is mythology. It truly does not work out there. I mean, think about it. If you go to the local car place and get your car worked on, they cheat you. You tell everybody you know. And you don't tell everybody you know. And if you go in there and he says, oh, it was 35 cents. I fixed it. Don't worry about it. You tell everybody you know because you just found a unicorn. You know what I mean? It's so rare. The guy just did the right thing. And you send your family, your friends, and that's how you succeed in business, is you do the right thing. It's how you succeed in life. You do the right thing. Integrity, the ability to delay pleasure, the ability to say, I'm going to give up something today. I'm going to live like no one else so that later I can live and give like no one else. That's the way we say it on the show. Now, the classic studies are that 97% of the 30-year-olds that graduated from high school, before they got married, and got married before they had a kid. That's all they did. High school, and they did it in the right order, in other words. 97% are above the poverty level. Almost everyone below the poverty level somehow got that out of order. They got pregnant before they got out of school. They got pregnant before got married. They got married before they got out of school. They got it out of order. It's the success order. All kinds of data points on that. It's statistical evidence. And it's not a political statement. It's just, this is the proper way to live your life. Turns out morals have implication. Character has implications. As far as the money piece goes, we have learned that when people handle their money together, that they're really setting their life goals together. They're sharing their fears. They're sharing their stresses. They're sharing their dreams, because your money all runs towards those things. The way you handle your money symptoms, more of a symptom of what's going on in your life than the actual problem. And so when we can get couples to start talking, it's amazing. They go through one of our classes and they've been married 12 years and they come back, you saved our marriage. I'm like, you went the wrong class. The sex class was down the hall. You know? I mean, but no, all we did was we made them start talking about their money. One checking account, shared accounts. We're gonna know everything that's going on, both of us. There's no, I'm going to take care of you. You're not good with money, honey, so I'll do the money. No, we're all on this together. One might be the nerd that's going to do more of the details, but we're going to be two adults pulling the wagon together. And there's tons of data that says you're not going to build wealth unless you do that.
So in your program, you talk a lot about how when you get wealthy, you should give a lot of charity. What do you think the role of charity is? Because there's a whole group of folks who are sort of the Ayn Randian objectivists who say that the best way that economics works is to never give charity. The best thing you can do is invest your money, create more jobs. Why do you think it's important for folks to give charity?
Well, it has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with what it does for you. God teaches both of our faiths to give very, very clearly. Tons of scripture. The Talmud, the Old Testament, what we Christians would call it, and in the New Testament as well. Tons. So why would a loving God suggest that you give money? It has nothing to do with economics. Your synagogue does not need your money. My church does not need my money. They're going to be fine, I promise. So that's not what it's about. This is about what happens in me. When I turn loose of money and I see the result, it moves me from selfish to selfless. It grows my character. And selfless people are highly attractive, much more so than selfish people. And so it turns out that the person who gives is also the person who holds the door for you. They're also the person that has a level of humility. They understand the center of the world really doesn't run through the top of their head. And so, but there's a spiritual result, a character-based result, and a psychological result when you go through the tactical step of mathematically giving your money away. And so when you reach over and you see a lady waiting a table in a greasy diner and you leave her a $300 tip and she's pregnant, that lady needs the money. Now, you helped her. The economy was affected, but what it did for you was more than any other player. So oddly enough, charity is selfish in that regard. If you understand what it does for you, what it does for your kids to see you give. And I've got a good friend who's Orthodox Jewish rabbi, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he cannot stand the phrase, and I agree with him, give back. He says, you're not giving back. You didn't take anything.
Right.
You're just giving. You didn't give back indicates somehow you took advantage of the culture and you owe the culture a debt. You don't owe the culture a debt. That's not true. But you owe yourself a debt to learn to have that element of your character. But because people who give are always grateful people, they're more humble and they're more selfless and they're highly attractive people. They're who you want your kids to be. They're who you want to be when you grow up, you know? That's who I want to be. I meet those old men, those old women, they got those beautiful faces, you know? And then you meet the ones that don't have beautiful faces because they're angry and they're selfish. And it ends up on their countenance when you get old. And because when you get old, you become more what you're going to be, right? You know, and that's what charity does. Now, think about this, though. If we could look at that on the macro level, what would happen? Oh, baby. I mean, what if we could get a whole culture that started giving, not because of the economic impacts, not because they helped this little charity, or not because this kid was fed, although that's a wonderful thing, but we got a whole culture of people who are highly attractive and selfless instead of selfish and mean and nasty.
We can't obey the teachings of Jesus without financial margin. God says not to worry, and you'll worry a lot if you have no financial margin. He said to be generous, and you can't be generous if you don't have financial margin. Okay, stop here, answer the last two questions, and I'll see you Sunday in church.